everybody. I'm super excited to be here in Dubai. I was telling some of the folks I met here my story in terms of growing up. My parents actually were in Oman, in Muscat, and their best friends used to live in Dubai. So I used to come and spend 2 or 3 weeks every summer on Jumeirah Beach, on a bungalow in Jumeirah Beach in those days. It was like a little small town. And so come and see it now. Every time I'm here, which is every few years, it's just completely, looks like a different city every time. So super excited to be here. And I'm here representing a company called Avolta, which I'm guessing 90% of the audience doesn't know who Avolta is. So just by way of introduction, I have a few slides to talk about that. But Avolta is, just so you know, it's not a bad thing that you don't know Avolta, because it's only about 6 months old. Okay? And how Avolta was born was there was a company called Dufry that merged with a company called Autogrill. And I'll explain what that means to you in a second. But if you can't think of anything else, just think of it as shopping or retail in the airport. Okay? So what do we do exactly? We actually participate in, our core business was duty-free retail. So you heard the CEO of DFS this morning. Our business is very similar to that. We were the world's largest duty-free organization. We also have, how many people know Hudson News? Just show of hands. Yeah, okay, so it's much bigger in America than anywhere else, but we have a convenience store business through Hudson News, and in most airports around the world, but also mostly in North America. And then we bought this company called Autogrill. How many people have heard of Autogrill? Okay, so you guys have been driving around in Italy. So it's a Milan-based company that does F&B off of highways. But what a lot of people don't know is that Autogrill also owned HMS Host. And HMS Host was the world's largest F&B operator in airports. So Autogrill, while the brand Autogrill is mostly for the highway business, it is the HMS Host business, for example, runs 400, 500 Starbucks stores within airports, for example. So it just gives you a kind of context of who we are, what we do. This is us on a page. We are in 73 countries. We have over 1,000 locations, but that's important in that 1,000 locations. If you look at it carefully, it says 350 airports, but almost 500 motorways. So the motorways part is the Autogrill part, and it says another 400 other channels. The 400 other channels, just to use 2 random examples, one is the Eurotunnel stores on both sides of the Eurotunnel, and we also do a lot of cruise ships as well. So the retail business on cruise ships. So it's a fairly diversified company. Avolta, like I said, is a new name. We kind of touch 2.3 billion travelers every year. And as most of you know who have come from outside, travel is booming. You probably didn't have an empty seat on your plane getting here. And what's nice about our business is it's 37% duty-free, 31% duty paid of the Hudson business, and about 32% food and beverage. So much more diversified than we used to be. We have about 5,000 outlets, and we deal with over 1,000 brands, right? That's across retail and food and beverage. So I'm just going to jump right into it. This is a little bit of, I think we had an amazing panel this morning of women who were talking about working in retail and loving retail. This was intended to set the context, but I think for a lot of people in this room, I think one of the things I always talk about when I talk about retail is that the only consistent or only thing that's true in retail is change. And that pace of change continues to increase. So without going into a lot of different things and talking about digital and AI and COVID and other things, the reality is we live in a landscape that's constantly changing and constantly evolving. And my role was created just in the last year and a half or so, mostly because we wanted to become a more consumer-centric company, right? So how do we think about it? How do we kind of lead innovation? It really, a lot of our time gets caught up on dealing with the brands and dealing with the airports. And we don't get that much time to think about the consumer. So my role was really created as a cross-functional role in the company to really get us thinking about the consumer. The panel that's going after me is going to talk to you about Gen Z, but let me just at least introduce the concept with some data to see if this surprises any of you. So if you add up the millennials and the Gen Zers, they historically have been less than 40% of the airport traffic. In a few years' time, they're expected to be over 70%, right? So just think about that for a second, and think about your airport experience. The airport experience and duty-free shops as they stand today haven't changed in about 30, 40, 50 years, right? You walk in, you see your liquor section, you see your perfume section, you see your tobacco section, you see all these, and it's pretty much sold that way forever. The question is, what do we want to do if there's going to be these digitally native customers walking through our doors every single day, right? And they're not a minority anymore, they're going to be a majority soon, right? How much, obviously they're influenced heavily by online. Many of them are now getting into the workforce. The millennials are all in the workforce, but the Gen Zers are getting into the workforce now. So they're going to be the ones traveling for work. They're the ones who sort of are going to have very strong opinions. They're much more on social media, so they're going to express their opinions. Are we ready for this? So just interesting facts here. 65% of Gen Zers ranked travel and seeing the world as the #1 most important way to spend their money, right? So this is good tailwind for our business in general, but it's also a very high bar because they spend the money, but they need to be satisfied as well, right? So Gen Zers age group, their share in travel and duty-free retail has doubled in the last few years, right? So 4% to 8%, and that's primarily driven by, that 40%, as I said, as we're getting up to 70, it'll continue, and I think it'll double again in the next 3 to 4 years. 52% of Gen Zers are frequent travelers, having taken at least 3 leisure trips in the past year. Can you imagine being 22 years old and taking 3 leisure trips when we were 22? Maybe it's too, for me at least, it's been too long ago, I probably can't remember, but the reality is because of hybrid working, because of how connected the world is, they're traveling a lot more than we are. So why am I giving you this context? I'm giving you this context because we're sitting here, and what I believe to be true is we're sitting in the absolute gateway to the entire world, right? What makes the Middle East so unique it is the gateway to Asia, and it is the gateway to Africa. On this slide behind me, what you'll see is that today, the #1 region in terms of the youth population, so 15 to 24, is in Asia. That's driven primarily in India, Indonesia, and many other emerging markets. I like the statistic. India has more Gen Zers than US and China combined. There's been a lot of talk about China for the last decade or more, and they've done a fantastic job, but the reality is their population is starting to age as well, right? So the future is going to be about Asia, specifically markets like India and Indonesia, and the red line that you see there is Africa. And why this is important is because I don't believe anybody's better positioned geographically than the Middle East market to take advantage of this trend, right? If you look at the amount, if you think about what Emirates does, Etihad does, and Qatar Airways do, disproportionate amount of their traffic goes towards the Indian subcontinent today. But they're also very well connected to Africa. What could go wrong, right? So this is the slide that we use a lot. We went from 2006, in terms of number of passengers, call it 4.5 billion. By 2042, we expect it to be 20 billion passengers. So this is fantastic news, right? And you're sitting in a fantastic location because you can be that gateway. So think of the number of passengers, think of the amount of, from our business, we think about how much food and beverage we can sell, how much retail, how much duty-free we can sell. It seems like a huge opportunity. The one thing that I will say, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's only specific to my industry, it may not be very insightful, but do think about this a little bit. In addition to the last 2 days, for example, a lot of conversations about Saudi, about Riyadh. They're building a brand new airport there. They placed the world's biggest order of planes, and those will come on board in the next 5, 10 years. You already have significant airlines, significant airports in the region. But one of the biggest complications is the Tata Group in India just took over Air India and Vistara and have some other investments, and they had placed the second biggest order. So right before the order placed by the Saudi government, Air India had placed the world's largest airplane order. And why are they doing that? They would like people to fly from India directly to their final destination. So all the stop-offs for the US, all the stop-offs for Europe may or may not be necessary. So just something to think about in terms of the change. So there is a growing population in the markets I'm talking about, but we don't know what route they're going to take. So for us as a company, investing in Asia is an extremely high priority. Investing in the Middle East and Africa is an extremely high priority as well. So I'm not going to go through all of these factors here, but there's a lot happening in this world. And you can see from 2019, where it was 9 billion passengers, only this year will we get to significantly higher, getting closer to 10 billion. So we've had some good tailwind the last 2 or 3 years, but this is a business that went to almost zero in 2020, as you can imagine, right? So there is definitely some momentum. What we are seeing, and we talked a lot about this again, so I don't want to go into too much detail here, but we had a panel on experiential stores. We've been talking about digital a lot. Personalization is something that is much more enabled through digitization and through technology, so we continue to do that. And then, we talked about AI adoption and what we do there, and sustainability. So this is more from an industry perspective what all of us should be working on, right? So the question is, how are we working on it as Avolta? So the most important thing that we did in the last 6 months is we unveiled the brand Avolta, right? So it was too confusing for customers. You are Dufry, which Dufry sounds like duty-free retail, but you also own duty paid, and you also own food and beverage. So we kind of went away from the Dufry red to the Avolta purple. Then we talked about experiences. You heard this morning from DFS as well. They focus a little bit more on luxury. We tend to focus a little bit more on the core assortment in the airports. But it's, again, all about experiences, and I'll talk a little bit about experiences. Sustainability, again, it's a huge topic. It's hard to talk sustainability as an airport retailer because obviously everybody's coming there to get on a plane and go to a different destination. But I also personally believe that that problem will also get solved over time, and the amount of clean energy, just like it's gotten into the automotive world, will probably get into the airspace as well. And then last but not least, something that's close to my heart, being the head of digital at Avolta as well, that digitization, right? So it's back to putting the power of the digital channel in the palms of people's, in our consumers' hands through their phone. So whether that's our loyalty program, whether that's our app, we're doing a lot of work around that to kind of tie it all together. What I wanted to do was just introduce to you the brand Avolta, knowing that many people in the room are hearing the word Avolta for the very first time. So, are you guys awake? Yeah? Let me just see, let me hear it. If I say the word Avolta, can you say it back to me? Okay, Avolta! Come on, you can do better than that. We'll try one more time. Avolta! Okay, so now at least you won't forget our name, but this video does a much better job than me, so I'm just going to go to the video.
It's time to shake up the industry, to reimagine travel, and to revolutionize your perspective. It's time to journey on, fusing the expertise of our businesses for the ultimate holistic travel experience, with the best of retail and F&B combined. Meet your new travel partner. Avolta. Born to make every journey as rewarding as the destination, to stand out and exceed expectations. Avolta is brave, passionate, collaborative, and global. A powerhouse that's here to make travelers happier by maximizing every moment of their journey. Designed to open up for brands and products, to navigate from place to place, adapt to the world around us, and reveal journeys. Created to explore products dynamically, to express itself. And expand horizons with epic brands across the globe, giving travelers encounters that capture their imagination every step of the way, and driving footfall for landlords through F&B and retail spaces that inspire and excite, explore new possibilities, and experience the power of purple. Avolta.
Okay, so hopefully you have a better idea of who Avolta is now. One of the things I wanted to talk about, I talked about experiences. This store actually, anybody know where the store is? It's open now, and it's in your region. It's the world's first Toblerone concept store, and it's actually in the Sharjah airport. So just opened this last month, so early in April. And again, we've taken the Hudson News store and the Toblerone store and kind of created a convenience store. All the menu items here, this is where the F&B side of our business comes in handy. All the desserts, for example, actually have real Toblerone and chocolate in the items, in the actual. So if you get a chocolate croissant, if you get a dessert, a chocolate dessert, it's actually made out of Toblerone. So this is something that's unique and different. We did the first one in the world with Baci in Milan, and this is the second one that we've done, but this is part of getting more and more to be experiential. And I would say this is still a transition because we just did the acquisition, a year ago. What we want to do is make it much more immersive, much more sort of new concepts. We're having similar conversations with luxury brands as well. This person on the right is an actual person. His name is Jonathan, and I hired him about 6 months ago as our first ever chief of entertainment. Okay? He's a magician. He's performed for the Queen of England when she was alive. He's also, performed for J.K. Rowling. He's sort of, very well known in terms of an entertainer, but he also has a background where he went back to graduate school and actually did entertainment for Lego and Merlin Entertainment as well. So creating kind of concepts and what it is. So part of our entire strategy, one part of the experience is going to be about leveraging entertainment. What does entertainment mean? You heard the CEO of Venky's up here today earlier. It could be eating ice cream in the store. It could be magic. It could be toys. It could be anything, but it's about the fact that we have a captive audience in airports, and sometimes you're there longer than you want to be there, either because your flight is delayed or you got there too early. How do you make the airport experience more enjoyable? That's what we really focused on when we think about experiential. Sustainability is something else I talked about. These are pretty straightforward. That table there is made out of coffee grounds. This little container here is made out of orange peels. And then this table here the top is made out of plastic bottles, right? So this is just an example of what we're doing from a sustainability standpoint. But the best part is we can use these in our restaurants and in our locations as well. So we recycle it, we create it, and we reuse it as well. The last part is just about the fact that we are being the world's largest duty-free operator, the world's largest F&B operator in airports. We have a very, very large audience. I mean, I'll just use one example. 92% of the traffic that goes through airports in North America, the traffic that goes through airports will pass one of our stores, right? So we have a really, really wide audience. This is an audience that spends a lot of money because they travel. They're sort of looking for experiences, and part of what we want to be able to do is guide them when they're in an airport, reward them through our loyalty program, help them kind of pre-order and receive their items when they want to dine and when they shop. So from our perspective, this is really, the acquisition we made a year ago has really opened up the aperture so we can do a lot of different things with this consumer. We could, if you wanted to order something and have it delivered to your lounge, you could probably do that. If you wanted to order something and pick it up in the store, you can do that, right? So how do we continue to do? Our loyalty program is actually growing significantly, but our loyalty program today is focused almost entirely on the retail side or the duty-free side. Now, if we add the F&B side to it, it gives us a lot more opportunity. So I think this is my last slide. So my time is just telling me I'm out of time as well. Thank you very much for the time, and hopefully you learned something new today. So thank you.